गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः।
The kind of help parents can give requires mindfulness in the sense of being attentive to the child, understanding the child, and being responsive to the child's needs, because ultimately the child's happiness should be all that matters to us as parents.
To be a mindful parent, or to walk the path of mindful parenting, I think we as parents need to regulate our emotions.
In lifestyle medicine and holistic medicine, we look at what does the patient need, what does a child need, what does a parent need, rather than us assuming that all children need a particular thing, all parents need a particular thing. It's always the other way.
So, the power to empower is coming from here. So whether it's parents, whether it's educators, actually the entire society, because we are who are creating that energy.
There's a beautiful saying that it takes a village to raise a child. We think it takes a special village to raise a special needs child. And we've been very fortunate. I must confess that both me and Dipali have been incredibly fortunate to have a great support system. Without a support system, we wouldn't be where we are. Support system, especially my in-laws who lived with us, who've taken care of Vivan from the time he was born.
So it's about how we write and how we connect, and every child is so unique. Some children are brilliant in their language skills, some are not. So I think we should also have the scope and give children that capability of, or allow them to write or communicate in the way they can.
जय धारी आप सबको।
थैंक यू।
नमस्ते, आज गीता जी जयंती भी है। नमस्ते आप सबको, प्रणाम। वी वेलकम आवर ऑडियंस। सर, डॉक्टर साहब, वेरी वेरी वेलकम। थैंक यू फॉर बीइंग विद अस। अजय सर, राहुल जी, थैंक यू। मम्मी, ग्रैटिट्यूड टू यू। सर, इंट्रोडक्शन में आज शायद एक सवाल है, एंड यू टेक द थॉट फॉरवर्ड। सर, मैं देख रही थी जो आई वाज वाचिंग intro videos, and मन में एक बात आई। सर, आपके डेजिग्नेशन में there's behavior and there's development. क्या हमारे बच्चों के कंधे are the shoulders of our children made to carry the weight of the parents' choices? उसके क्या बने हैं क्या? Because our children are carrying the weight of the choices the parents are making all the time, and of course then they come with their own destiny. We welcome you, sir. We take this thought forward. Mami Jia Bole, and then this up.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Sameer Halwal, for joining us. I know you're a very busy schedules, but you spared your time for us, and I know you raise many villages. As I said, such children need a whole village support system Could you explain that? What did they mean by village? And I like the Saina's question. Are the children, by when are they ready to carry the weight of the aspirations of their parents? How does it have, and particularly kind of parents children you deal with, Dr. Dhalwar?
So, good evening, Namaskar, and pranam to all of you. And, ma'am, at the outset, let me tell you what a pleasure and honor it is for me to be having a conversation with you. So, thank you so much. I think so many wonderful thoughts have already come up, and I'll begin by what Saina ma'am said sometime back about whether the children's shoulders being strong enough to take the bear the weight of expectations. अब मुसीबत इसमें सच्ची ये है कि पेरेंट्स को लग रहा है वो तो अच्छा कर रहे हैं. This is the biggest problem, that their heart is clean. They are doing this thinking that they are doing it for the betterment of the child. कि अगर हम बच्चों के ये expectations हम set नहीं करेंगे तो शायद बच्चे गुमराह हो जाएंगे. तो मुसीबत वहां से शुरू होती है. Somebody also said about it takes a village to raise a child. It is so important that I'll give you a small context to it. As Homo sapiens, as human beings, we must all remember that we developed over millions and millions of years. But for the largest part of these millions of years, we were hunters and gatherers. We lived off the land in small communes of 120, 130 people. और हमारी रोज की जिंदगी dependent on being connected with that small group of people, learning from each other, looking at the skies, looking at the water and the air flowing. So you are connected to nature as such, and that is hardwired in our genes. If you look at things which are given a lot of eminence today by parents and society, whether it is speech, which is only a few 100,000 years of an evolutionary process, much later after humans actually began evolving. If you look at writing and reading, which is only a 5,000-6,000-year-old process, and if you look at even schooling the way it is practiced today in a structured setup, it is only 100, maybe 150-year-old phenomena. And if you look at screen and AI and learning from screens, which every parent seems to be very focused that their child learns, it is in a blink of an eye. So if you look at the time span, our genes have evolved, the survival of the fittest, but it takes thousands of years for genes to evolve. But today we are bringing our children into a world for which their genes haven't had time to evolve. And suddenly today we have children who are basically genetically, evolutionarily hardwired to live in connection with nature and with people and learn from people, and they are being cut away from people, and they are being packed up in educational programs or schools and on the screen. So to begin with, we are bringing them in a world that they are not really attuned for with their human genes. Especially if there is a small issue somewhere, then it gets amplified, and a lot of children coming to me as special children are not really what one would call as special children. It's only because they have not been set up for the system that is now being made to run the entire thing, if I may say, commercially. So to give you how the evolution has entitled us is, at birth, the first milestone probably that should happen is that the child has to begin engaging and connecting with other humans. This is, according to me, the first milestone, which I call human engagement. Yeah, a better word is, if you permit me to use it, मनुष्य मग्नता. तो मैं इससे कहता हूं कि जब बच्चा पैदा होता है उसे कुछ नहीं पता है कि क्या है. जब वो रोता है तो we know माँ कि उसको she picks her up and feeds the baby. Over a period of time, the child learns to focus on humans because they are providing his or her needs and providing security and pleasure. So the child now gets attuned towards human beings, and the mother gets attuned. Somebody used that word earlier as well. And now he learns human engagement. So he's observing the mother. When the bell rings, the mother goes and opens the door. When the bell doesn't ring, the mother doesn't open the door. He's learning karna kya hai, kab karna hai, kab nahi karna hai. It's not the opening and closing of the door as a skill that's important. It's knowing when to do it, when not. Khana kab khana hai, kapde kab change karne, everything that is human behavior, the child learns from the immediate people in the surrounding. Once the child understands this, then the child learns how to connect to the chachi, the masi, the bua, mummy, because genetically they are closer to the parents. So child learns कि एक चाची के साथ ऐसा करना है, एक मासी के साथ वैसा करना है. चाची को ये चीज पसंद नहीं है, मासी को ये चीज पसंद है. If I go to the bua's house, वहां पे चावल की रोटी वहां पे रोटी मिलेगी गेहूं की, और मासी के घर जाऊंगा तो वहां पे चपाती मिलेगी या चावल मिलेगा. So the child knows कहाँ पे क्या करना है. And this is how actually the child learns the process of human behavior and cognitive and social behavior and learning. उसके बाद the child is able to engage with the community around, which is of course not so immediately like the parents, and the child learns from one person to another. He learns vividita, if I can use that word again, because sometimes I don't get the exact right meaning in the English words. तो जब बच्चा वो विविधता सीखता है, he learns how to deal with different people in different situations. Only after that is he good enough to go to school where you have a structured system. And मैं मजाक में हमेशा कहता हूँ that I have so many parents who come to me and say, my child doesn't sit in the classroom, he doesn't learn to listen to the teacher. So I tell them, have you taken your child to your relative's house, to the family's house? Does he spend time? No, no, Dr. Saab, वो सब अभी down market चीजें हैं. We have put him in the best global international school. So we want him to go there, but he's not, the teacher now wants us to do some special learning for him. So I tell them, जो बच्चा अपने सगे चाची को हैंडल नहीं कर सकता है, वो स्कूल की टीचर भी तो किसी और की चाची है, उसको कैसे हैंडल करेगा? So this seems like a very simple thing to say, but actually I think today we need to bring out the importance of human engagement that powers learning. It's not the books, it's not the screen, it's not this hi-fi AI. And I'm not against technology at all or modernity, but I'm just saying that human evolution told us that human engagement is what really we need. And I'm working on a concept which I call from cradle to classroom, the perilous jump of Indian children, because what it cuts out is the family, the neighborhood, the community, and the society before actually you are ready to enter school. Because school expects you to have learned all these norms or mores, as we say, and then the school can take you up academically to another level, socially to another level, cognitively to another level. This is missing today in early childhood, unfortunately, because one, we have no time. Second, we are, that I can understand, but the other part is there is an entire consumerist drive to make us think that buying things for our child and buying these gadgets or paying for some classes is probably going to give our child a much better future. And everybody obviously wants not just an Einstein, but permit me to say Elon Musk in today's world. One needs to understand that it is connection with our humans around us, people around us, that allow us to live elsewhere and much better. I might just say that, maybe it sounds casual. Is there a real reason why today Indians enjoy the topmost corporate positions across the world? It's not just their technical skills. Who are you, Mr. Nadella, just if I may be permitted to use his name? Do you think there's nobody technically more sound than him in the country where he is right now? I'm sure there are. I guess that his real reason for being in the job is his ability to deal with different people, to show respect, to get the best out of people, to make people feel valued. But I can bet he's not learned this in an American or a foreign university. And I don't think he learned it even in a university here or in a school. I think he learned it in his family and going to the Masi, Bua, Kaki, Mummy, Chachi, and learned how to live with people, siblings at home, families at home. And that is what brings up the last point that I will say, resilience. The ability to hear no. चाची बोलेगी यहाँ पे चावल ही मिलेगा, रोटी नहीं मिलेगी, खाना है तो खा. मासी बोलेगी यहाँ पे ऐसा ही मिलेगा, खाना है तो खाओ. We learn ready यार, यार क्या है यार. So I always say there is this khadus chachi, and she enters the room. All of us have to be on our guard and quiet. The moment she goes away, and then there's a chilled out masi, with her we can do whatever we want. The moment that other chachi comes in, this is being able to say no to our impulses that way, and this the child learns in the nurturing environment of the family. Because khadus bhi hai chachi, lekin chachi hai na. But if the child has not, she's not going to push the child or hit the child. But if the child has not learned this in school, and the family, and goes to school, and he may push another child, that child is going to push him back, and that's going to escalate. So first, we need to make our parents understand it is not these hi-fi gadgetry or these hi-fi schools, but it's basically the family, the chachi, masi, bua, mami, nana, nani, that your child needs to get plenty of time to live with, spend time with. If they are not in the same city, they are very busy, but at least make it a point to visit them twice a year, thrice a year. If not, make friends around you. Invest in relationships, because that is what is going to teach your child resilience, the ability to deal with no. how one relative may say no to something, somebody else may say, you deal with it and you learn it at that stage. Today we see children directly jumping into an academic environment from the cradle, so to speak, and the first time they encounter a disappointment, they are not ready for disappointment. Where do we learn disappointment? In our families, from bachpan se. So we are used to taking things in our stride. These kids are now getting more and more fragile because they haven't had the kind of nurturing environment that prepares us for all this at home. So I think with this, I'll close my monologue. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'll be very happy to hear the others and maybe field some questions. Thank you so much.
Sir,
So much well said.
Ji, sir, it's wonderful hearing you, sir. Ji, sir.
So much well said.
Sir, there is an idea that in Mass Grace, I'm trying to push. Ji, sir, I got my connectivity back. A young girl was talking to me about certain concerns. उस टाइम मन में ये बात आई, बच्चों के लिए भी आई और यंगस्टर्स के भी आई, बट बच्चों जी सर,
Network issue where?
आई
Where's the
encouraged
network
them
issue?
कि 4-5 छोटे-छोटे पौधे ले लो, गमले.
There's a network issue.
आवाज आ रही है जी?
Victor, are you okay now?
Ma'am, थोड़ा
Looks
break
better.
होके आ रही थी, so we didn't hear exactly what you had to say.
Yeah. Now say it again, Saina.
Yeah,
Here.
please.
At Saina's end, there is something in the end. Rahul, it seems. So have a look at yours.
You can hear me?
Yeah, now we're getting better now.
Saina,
Carry on,
please speak.
Saina, carry on. Saina, I think she's lost the connection.
जी.
Let me
Sir,
go back to question
am I
while
audible?
Saina records. Till Saina, are you okay? Saina, can you? No, she's still right now. Ajay, are you okay? Yes.
Okay,
Rahul, are
yeah.
you okay? Rahul, go ahead. You ask a question, Ajay. Till Saina joins in.
Can I ask, ma'am?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, doctor. As parents, it's natural to want the best for our children. But in today's fast-paced world, we must also recognize the immense pressures they face. In mindful parenting, I emphasize the need for emotional connection, empathy, and balance in raising children by fostering open communication, encouraging self reflection, and teaching them to set healthy boundaries. We can help them thrive not just in academics or careers, but as happy, confident individuals. In today's world, children often experience FOMO, which is fear of missing out, and feel the constant need to check social media and stay updated. Along with this, they are growing up in an overly competitive environment where they frequently feel that they are never enough. The stress over grades, the pressure to succeed, and even over ambitious tendencies are taking a toll on their emotional well being. This is not just coming from parents, children themselves feel stressed. In such a scenario, Dr. Samir, what advice would you give to parents to guide and support their children? And what message would you share with children themselves to help them navigate these challenges?
First and foremost, Dr. Kumar, it's a wonderful book. I have not gone through all of it, but I went through some snippets. So I congratulate you for taking up this issue and writing about it. So well done, great job. You brought out a very important point about the fear of missing out, and it's the parents who feel their child will miss out if he doesn't get something.
Yeah.
The truth is, the parents, I mean, I asked them, is there nothing that you've missed out on in your life? And if you look at the four great truths that Gautam Buddha propounded thousands of years back from our land, the first truth is that life is disappointment. So, so the point is we have to understand that nobody in our lives has a very happy moment every day. It's the parents who need to be reminded of that. And if we are not happy every moment, Why are we bringing our child or creating a fake environment around our child that the child should be happy? So the problem starts with the parents providing everything to the child, and this somewhat of a maybe misconception that never let your child cry, never let your child be anxious, never let your child be unhappy. I think we are fostering a very artificial ecosystem around our child where the child feels that everybody has to look after my happiness and I want to get everything and I should not miss out on anything. And that's where, like you mentioned, truly now with the mobile in hand and getting likes and not getting those likes on your Instagram post, then that fear of missing out gets far magnified because they haven't had any stage at life at which they have missed out things and been happy with it. जैसे अपने बचपन में खेलने गए, पहले बॉल पे आउट हो गए, हमको तो और बैटिंग करनी है, तो दूसरा आके बैट हाथ से खींच लेगा और अपनी बैटिंग शुरू करेगा। आज ऐसे करो तो जिसकी बैट है उसके पेरेंट्स आएंगे, बोलेंगे हाउ डेयर यू स्नैच एनीथिंग आउट ऑफ माय चाइल्ड्स हैंड एंड यू आर अब्यूजिंग माय चाइल्ड्स इशू। तो ये सब जो है वील हैव टू पुट इट इन पर्सपेक्टिव कि भैया लाइफ में थोड़ा डिसअपॉइंटमेंट तो रहना सीखो। सो आई रेड अ स्टेटमेंट समवेयर वेयर समबडी सेड that many children set up their child for failure by making their life too easy for them. Because the truth is life में disappointment तो होने वाली है. You are going to miss out on so many things, but you need to take it in your stride. I think this is how we can help parents. But you can tell me also, others can share what you all think about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, it was a wonderful question, sir, and it's a lovely answer. So, मैं just taking the thought forward, जो जिसके बारे में मैं आपसे बात कर रही थी. Sir, so I encourage the children and the youngsters कि 4-5 छोटे-छोटे पौधे लो. Start growing them on a daily basis. Start nurturing them on a daily basis. Let the plant go through various seasons. You'll realize that it's very similar to life. You will understand what growth is. You will understand what working with your hands is. You will understand how a plant goes through all the seasons of life. You will understand resilience. You will understand could they weather the storm. You will also understand the importance of relationships and growth and putting in love and not plundering. फिर आपके पौधे को कोई ऐसे करेगा या एक पत्ता भी तोड़ेगा तो आपको दुख होएगा. You will understand the sacredness of relationships. वो possessiveness आएगी कि वो 4 पौधे 5 पौधे मेरे हैं, मेरी जिंदगी है, मुझे ग्रो करना है, इसको धूप देना है, पानी देना है, सनशाइन देना है, इसको खुराक देनी है. So our children need to learn what is life truly. It's not always all sunshine.
So it's basically introducing gardening in their growth, linking them with gardening in their growth, I think gives them naturally these lessons. Yes, doctor?
Yes, absolutely. She made a good point. There's a seasonal cycle, and what will flower will also fade, what will bloom will also die. And I think this is a very natural, holistic way of making the child understand this rather than taking some classes on YouTube for the child. I think this is very important. And, we try to keep our child away from dukh ya gham, but it is best within the nurturing environment of the home because you are there as a parent to support the child. Let the child fail, let the child see dukh, gum, disappointment. Oh, this now you've planted poda. Unfortunately, one of it may die also. Let the child feel bad, cry and come to you, hold the child. Let the child get over his disappointment while you are with them. This is where he will learn his resilience, not when you are not around. This is the time, a very good example that gardening actually, in a season, it teaches you about the entire life cycle. So that's very important.
Rahul, would you like to ask?
Yes, Rahul.
Hi, Doctor. It's a great pleasure to meet a behavioral developmental doctor, pediatrician, by the way. So, see, Doctor, my question may be a little academic. See, these days, when I learned, I'm into psychology, so I learned psychology that our behavior is always a result of genetics and the environment, the heredity and the environment, both combination. So my question is that, see, these days people are now talking a lot about the genetics factor. How do genetic factors influence child's physical, cognitive, and the emotional development? And what role does the environment support? What kind of environmental support that we can give in shaping their potential?
So you actually said the cat amongst the pigeons by bringing up the nature versus nurture debate, which is something which the psychologists in the early 19th, 20th century actually brought up the relevance of genes to the child's development, and they actually placed, whether it is Arnold Jessel or then Piaget, that these are these stages which are set up, and that's how the child evolves and learns along these stages as it goes along, and all of that is definitely decided by the genes. And today, as you know, that there is now they're proposing a gene even for problems like alcoholism, and of course, you know that for everything else, also we are tracing it down to the genes. The issue is that there's not much in today's time that you can do to change the genes. If at all, it is a problem because of the genes. But I am a believer and a follower of what Lev Vygotsky, as you must be knowing, said. And Lev Vygotsky was one of the most brilliant psychologists who spoke about the zone of proximal development. He said what the child can't do today, he will learn or she will learn to do with support, and day after she will learn to do it on her own. What the child can't do today, she will learn with support, learn to do it without support, and then do it on her own. So you are developing slowly, step by step. We spoke about the principle of scaffolding. स्कैफोल्डिंग जो फेंस होती है ना, जो हम वो वुडन फेंस लगाते हैं गार्डन के एज में, और वो बेलें होती है, उन्हें हम बिल्कुल शुरुआत में उसे छोड़ देते हैं, वो बेल वो स्कैफोल्डिंग को पकड़ 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 के पूरे स्कैफोल्डिंग को भर देती है और ग्रो करती है. अगर स्कैफोल्डिंग में बहुत बड़ी बड़ी गैप होगी तो बेलें कवर नहीं कर पाएंगी. So the family structure or the parents are actually, and the environment is that scaffolding, and this is the entire environment or the nurture that we are talking about, because the nurturing is the one which I believe very very strongly. Any child comes to me with autism or learning disability, it's a full-fledged problem already identified, but I prefer to go into the beginning of the journey. How has the child's life been? What was the parents' attitude? What were the stresses the parents faced? Because eventually a large part of it, see, the genes are constant, right? They are not evolving in my genes are not evolving in my lifestyle, or they are playing out, but there's a bigger role of epigenetics. The assimilation or the role or the interplay between environment and the genes, what we call as epigenetics, is actually more important, because that is the only part you can reverse, or that is the only part you can impact or play with or modify. And hence all the kind of therapy or intervention or whatever we do, or counseling or coaching, is eventually modifying the environmental aspects of the child and helping the child or the person to think differently. So I am a very big believer that it's all your story, and your story starts right from birth, and everything that you have been through and how you've coped with it and what lessons you have taken from it are actually as much, I would say, hardwired, if not more, than your genes. And hence whatever you decide is more a result of your past software hardwiring rather than the real hardware you are born with. So I encourage everybody to go back and be mindful of their own journeys or the way their child has faced and deal with. For example, you have a child who's come with, say, adoption. And I have a girl right now with me, is around 12, 16, 17 years old. And the parents had adopted her, and now this girl is in a total mess. She was not told about this earlier. She came to know from somebody else. Now, this one thing can shatter everything, because so far the child has trusted or believed whatever the parents said. Not that the parents did anything wrong, in fact, they gave her a great life. But this one realization, somebody else tells you this is the truth about you, the child is not unhappy anymore that she was left, or was not cared for by her biological parents. She is not even mindful of the fact that somebody who's not her biological parent has given her so much. She is upset about the fact the person I trusted in, why has he broken or she broken my trust? And that overrides everything else that the parents have actually done for this child, and that sets off a reaction which is very difficult to try and overcome. So the whole situation is, the narrative is about what the child faces, and hence we must be very mindful of what we speak in front of our children, what we do in front of our children, and also mindful of how our child is reacting to what we say, what we do, what the child sees outside in the world, what the child feels at in the school. And that can only happen, like you said earlier, Dr. Kumar said, that you have to have an open conversation. If you are only speaking all the time And I see that happening all the time. Parents are always in a consultant mode. हम advice देना चाह रहे हैं. We are not willing to listen. And even if the child has no other genetic problem, you will find it going into a realm of some kind of anxiety or now depression, poor resilience. So I think it's very important to understand that what we can do with is the environmental part, the nurturing part, our role as society. The genes ka jo hai, there's nothing much that we can do unless it's a very severe disorder or something. That's what I think. But I just end by saying, very often we say na wo to baap pe gaya. Sorry, I'm just using language that layman use. या वो अपने ग्रैंडफादर जैसा है या वो अपनी मम्मी जैसा है. I think this is our mindset where we are looking at excuses and eventually we are talking about the genes. I think we should completely rub out and erase these kind of thinking in our mind. It has nothing to do with how the mother was genetically. It depends on how you've treated the child while the child is growing.
So are you, doctor, saying that nurturance is more powerful than the genes?
Yes, I'm saying that as my personal belief on record, that I believe nurturing is far more important than genes, because eventually you cannot change the genes, but you can change the way you or whatever you are doing in the nurturing, and that will have a far better impact on the child than trying to do something with the changing the child's genes. I, for one, certainly believe it.
Can the genes with which the child is born can they get identified earlier? Does a parent start understanding ये inherit किया है, ये nature इसने inherit की है, ये इसकी आदत inherited है, ये इसका taste inherited है, ये इसका mood inherited है, ये inherited है, अब उसको alter करना है या उसको nurture करना है further या modify करना है?
Absolutely. See, it's a wonderful question. Wonderful, very scientific as well. That the child may be primed or maybe having these traits. How I handle that trait is very important. I'll just give you a very clear-cut developmental example. What people call as ADHD. When the child is very hyperactive, the child is not able to control his impulses, is going around. Okay, it is a trait. I agree. It is a trait. The point is, if a child with this trait is born in a house which is completely in disarray, everybody is coming and going as they want, everything is in a turmoil, this child's trait is going to get triggered further, and hence he's going to get more and more hyperactive, more and more impulsive, more and more inattentive. So अगर बच्चे में trait है hyperactivity की, I'm just saying, और अगर उसके अतराफ में भी turmoil है, hyperactive है, there is no way this child is going to get less hyperactive. मगर if this child is with hyperactive trait is born with an atmosphere which is environment which is शीतल, for example, अगर सब शांत है, then this child's trait is not going to kick off so much more as much as in the other environment. And ma'am, they actually, if you see if you look at diabetes, my dad has diabetes for the last 50 years. Somehow I've always been aware about it. I have taken great care to try. Now, so far I have stayed out of it. Now we know diabetes hereditary, so I know that I am more prone to develop diabetes compared to the next guy whose genetics or family mein nahi hai. But I can prevent it by my lifestyle, by my choices of what I eat, by how I exercise and whatever I do. So for example, a child comes to me, he's been diagnosed and labeled as ADHD, and बच्चा hyperactive है, आप उसको दवाइयाँ दीजिए. It's a typical method to give some medications. मैं बताता हूँ ये उनको बता कि आप पहले काम करिए, ये ट्रेट है, ये स्टैंप नहीं है उसके ऊपर. हम उसके ट्रेट को मॉडिफाई कर सकते हैं बाय नर्चरिंग. सिंपल थिंग्स लाइक दिस चाइल्ड इज इम्पल्सिव, जो मन में आया वो करता है. You make a timetable for the child, you make a schedule for the child. Start that when the child wakes up. हाँ, ये नहीं कि इसके 2 घंटे पढ़ाई का ही शेड्यूल बना दिया. अब प्रॉब्लम ये है ना, हमको सिर्फ पढ़ाई से लेना देना है. पहले we have to understand that the child first learns behavior, then communication, then academics. So I call it BCA. First behavior, then communication, then academics. So when you put the child into a schedule, after you wake up first, you will brush your teeth, then you will wash your mouth, then you will go to the toilet, then you will take a bath, then you will dress up, then you will have your breakfast, then you will go to school. We encourage parents to make a schedule throughout the day. Now what happens with the schedule is the child knows कि भाई करने को मुझे सब मिलेगा, मुझे मस्ती भी करने मिलेगी, मुझे फुटबॉल भी देखने खेलने मिलेगा, मुझे सब कुछ करने मिलेगा, मगर एक पर्टिकुलर टाइम पर और एक पर्टिकुलर समय तक. So he knows that I'm getting everything. It's like somebody who's getting a salary at the end of the month. As long as the parents provide what they have promised at that particular time, say 5 to 5:30 is football time, but then the parents have to be there to enable that 5 to 5:30. बच्चा 4:45 बोलेगा फुटबॉल फुटबॉल, आपको बोला है नो 5 o'clock, लेकिन 5:15 नहीं हो सकते, आपको फिर 5 बजे ले जाना है. तो चाइल्ड विल कंप्लेन, बट ही नोज इन द बैक ऑफ हिज माइंड कि भाई उतना ही होने वाला है, लेकिन कल भी मिलेगा 5 बजे. अब ये जो एक प्रेडिक्टेबिलिटी आती है लाइफ में बच्चे के, उससे उसकी एंजाइटी और इंपल्सिविटी कम हो सकती है कि करने सब मिलेगा, आई कैन निगोशिएट, बट आई विल हैव टू फॉलो सर्टेन रूल्स. व्हेन आई फॉलो दीज सर्टेन स्टेप्स, my life becomes more peaceful. Mama gets less angry, daddy doesn't get upset, and I'm also able to do everything else. And this is what we actually see not just in children with ADHD, in children with autism in our center, that they're able to understand this predictability and also gratification कि मिलेगा मगर उसी समय पे. So just a simple thing like scheduling, and I've put some videos on Instagram about scheduling, etc. We can share that. So all this makes parents understand that we can train and nurture our child in a much better way than just what the genes may be responsible for.
It's like the feed time. It's the eating time. It's like a feed time. You begin with the child. Feed time. A beach
Yes.
mein rota hai and they want it. And that's when they probably relax. So feeding time, eating habits, feeding habits, eating habits. Isn't
Yes.
it? I think
Yes.
they're interlinked. But then it's begin very early.
Correct. And it's about making the child understand that you will have everything. You can do all of it. But there is a certain time it will begin and a certain time will end. And I want to go back to what ma'am said about the gardening part of it. See, everything ties up because nature is like that. एक ही मौसम नहीं चलता ना. There is always change. Change is constant. And the child has to know that I'll have to give up football at 5:30. But tomorrow at 5 I'll get it again. This is what keeps life going ना. आज मुझे नहीं मिला लेकिन कल मिलेगा. वो कल के जो होप है उसके ऊपर we are able to keep quiet. When I see things as hopeless, I get violent or I get depressed. Either ways I become extreme because अभी hope नहीं है. But I have hope. कल फुटबॉल फिर 5 बजे मिलेगा ही. So this is what makes the child more balanced right from the beginning. And that is what parents should be mindful about. That पत्थर की लकीर कुछ नहीं है. कुछ नहीं है पत्थर की लकीर. वो ऑटिज्म बोला होगा, कोई किसी ने ADHD बोला होगा, कोई पत्थर की लकीर नहीं है. These are all terms which are used to describe symptoms, but they are used as a diagnosis. Just to lots of things are done in it उसके आड़ में, मगर कोई पत्थर की लकीर नहीं है. If you do the right nurturing, handling the child in a correct advice with a correct way, many things get better.
Sir, Ma bless you so much. You're so much, sir. Sir, it's आपकी बातें are so full of hope and encouragement, sir. So full of hope and positivity, sir. Ma bless you. Sir, आपने सारी बात जो बोली है सर, उसमें एक बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट बात आती है, वो है सेल्फ अवेयरनेस. वो पेरेंट्स को चाहिए सर कि ये हमारा बच्चा है, ये हमारा अंश है, इसने हमारे बाद भी जीना है. इसको सक्षम बनाएं कि ये खुद के साथ जी सके.
हाँ, तो वो कैसे आएगा
सर?
बहुत बहुत अच्छी बात बताया आपने. So sometimes people find it is a little too harsh, but I always say this: कि what is the ultimate aim of parenting? Is it to leave a big bank balance? We see so many people who inherit a big bank balance and they go bankrupt. Is it giving the child education? 10 degrees hai. You will find that most of them end up, you know what happens with some people from even the IITs and the IIMs, and they are not able to even prevent themselves from self-harm. So it is not leaving their child with a bank balance, property, or even with academic qualifications. So the final aim of parenting is to leave behind a child who can live a happy, contented life without the parents. That is what you have to prepare the child for. This is the self-awareness Saina ma'am was talking about. That I am aware that I am no parent would wish it otherwise, right? No parent would wish otherwise. Your child is going to live after you. You have to prepare how he will handle problems after you are not there. And like somebody said very nicely the other day, that don't make the road for the child. Don't prepare a road for the child. Prepare the child to make a road. So if these aspects you are bringing into the child's life, and we have children with autism who come to us, and we plan what are the real goals I want from this child. Do I want him to recite ABCD 1 2 3 4 or poetry or rhymes or something? No, that is just a repetitive thing. Our aim for a child with autism is 6 months, 1 year down the line, क्या ये चाची मासी बुआ मामी के घर 2 2 दिन अपनी मम्मी के बगैर रह सकता है? और जो मासी बोली कि मासी के घर में वो करना है, चाची के घर, तो लोग मुझे बोलते हैं डॉक्टर ऑटिज्म क्या, हमारे बच्चों को कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं है? वो भी नहीं रह सकते, वो भी नहीं रह सकते। मतलब उनको जो चीज चाहिए वो जब मम्मी डैडी देते हैं तभी वो खुश से जी सकते हैं। क्या होगा जब मम्मी डैडी देने वाले नहीं है, आपका एटीएम कार्ड डिसेबल्ड हो जाएगा, तब क्या होगा? एंड दैट इज व्हाई वी नीड टू प्रिपेयर कि द चाइल्ड नीड्स टू बी एबल टू लिव on her or his own terms, not financially, obviously in childhood, not for roti kapda or makan, but to deal with conflicts or in a positive way to deal with relationships. बच्चे हैं स्कूल में, लड़के आते हैं, माँ आ रही है, देखे दोनों को लड़ते हुए, तो अपने घर पे बच्चे को लेके गया तो उसको बहुत पीट दिया, या दूसरे के घर पे जाके उसके मम्मी को डांट दिया कि तुम्हारा बच्चा इतना शैतान है, मेरे बच्चे को पीट रहा है। अब ये दोनों पेरेंट्स की लड़ाई हो रही, दोनों फादर्स की, मदर्स की। अब ये एक दूसरे का मुंह नहीं दिख रहे सोसाइटी में, जहां पे भी है। 4 दिन दोनों आ रहे थे, इस तरफ मुंह कर रहा है, उस तरफ मुंह कर रहा है, दोनों ढूंढ रहे मेरे बच्चे कहाँ हैं, और दोनों बच्चे इकट्ठे खेल रहे हैं। तो रे यार हमारी लड़ाई लगा दी तुम लोगों ने, और तुम तो दोस्ती हो गई। अरे उन्होंने लड़ाई नहीं लगाई आपकी, वो कहाँ आपके पास आए कंप्लेंट लेके कि भाई मैडम के पास की पुलिस कंप्लेंट में कंप्लेंट ले गए कि भाई मेरी एफआईआर दर्ज करो। अब वो तो झगड़ा हो गया यार, तो 2 दिन में भूल जाए, 1 मिनट में भूल जाते हैं, फिर दोस्त हो जाते हैं। और ये जो सीखना चाहिए ना, ये जरूरी है टू रिजॉल्व कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स लेटर इन लाइफ, इन योर कॉलेज डेज, इन योर ऑफिस, in your marriage, with your other colleagues. This is your childhood relationships or friendships determine all this. You don't need to interfere, go and fire that other mother कि तुम लोग ऐसे हो, तुम्हारा बच्चा भी ऐसा है, and then keep your child away. वो उसको स्टेरिलाइज मत करो। स्टेरिलाइज एनवायरमेंट में बच्चे नहीं बढ़ते, वो थोड़ा सा रफ एंड टफ लगता ही है। It has to be protected. I am not saying allow somebody to rag your child, obviously not. Don't allow anybody obviously to hurt your child physically. मगर अगर कोई दोस्त की माँ डांट देती है तुम दोनों शैतान शरारत कर रहे हो, अच्छी बात है। और एक मैं बात, जस्ट इफ यू हैव अ मिनट, आई जस्ट पुट इट, आई वोंट टेक द पर्सन, अ वेरी फेमस पर्सन, somebody told her that a child is watching behaving or showing signs of autism. तो किसी ने मेरे पास भेजा, तो आई वेंट थ्रू इट, तो आई ऑटिज्म तो नहीं है, मगर द चाइल्ड वाज वाचिंग टीवी फॉर अबाउट 7-8 आवर्स पर डे। अब वो पेरेंट्स में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट था, मदर वाज ट्राइंग टू स्टॉप इट, फादर वाज सेइंग सो व्हाट, ये आज का न्यू जनरेशन है, दे आर स्मार्टर देन अस, लेट हिम डू ऑल दीस गेम्स, ऑल दैट स्टफ। फिर सवाल मदर से, आई एग्री विद यू, बट करूं क्या मैं, बिकॉज़ आई एम आल्सो वर्किंग मदर, एंड दिस वाज जस्ट बिफोर कोविड, एंड देन कोविड स्टक। हमने उन्हें सजेस्ट किया कि मैम आप जहां काम करते, शी वर्कड इन एक्चुअली काइंड ऑफ एन एनजीओ वेयर देयर वर मेनी women whom they had taken as to support and stuff like that, so it was in a way a village. मैंने कहा give half day off to one mother and make a group of 6 such mothers. Give few hours from work off to every mother once a week. So after the children come from school, अब क्या होता है, parents are working, वो घर में टीवी मोबाइल देख रहे हैं, एडिक्शन हो गया। I said let one mother be off for those 3-4 hours in the evening or 3 hours. Let all the 6 children go to that mother's house. फिर वो जो मदर उस दिन की उसकी वो मदर है, वो जो अपना खिलाएगी, वो जो अपना बनाएगी, वो जो गेम्स कराएगी, सब 6 बच्चों को वो करना है। नेक्स्ट डे ये मदर बैक टू वर्क, दूसरी मदर को 2 घंटे ऑफ दिया है। अब ये सब जाते उसके घर पे, या तो आपके घर से ले जाओ, या बेटर वो जो दे रही है वो खिलाइए। फिर नेक्स्ट डे अब ये हुआ कि एवरीबडी हैड टू टेक ओनली 2-3 आवर्स ऑफ फ्रॉम वर्क वंस अ वीक, बट द 6 चिल्ड्रन not just forgot television or screens, they became so much smarter and sharper because they could learn from विविधता of 6 mothers. किसके घर में रसम मिलता है तो रसम खा लिया, किसी के घर में दाल मिलती दाल। तो ये जो एडजस्टमेंट सीखते हैं, खुशी खुशी बच्चे सीखते हैं, हम नहीं खुशी खुशी सीखते कोई चेंज। तो ये इन्होंने करा, एंड देन शी सेड डॉक्टर दिस हैज वर्कड सो वेल, आई एम गोइंग टू एनरोल 10 more mothers. मैंने कहा 20 कर दो टोटली, so everybody needs to take 3 hours off once a month because Saturday Sunday तो छुट्टियां हैं। आपको महीने में एक हाफ डे लेना है या 3 hours ऑफ लेना है। But the mothers also became so happy because that one day they could spend time with all these kids, but the other days they were so relaxed, and that's a message. Parenting is not about raising the child. Parenting is about the parent. How do you handle yourself? And उसी में mindfulness वर्ड आ जाता है. How are you? And there is no formula. वो कहते हैं ना कि हिंदी फिल्म बनाने का कोई सक्सेसफुल फॉर्मूला नहीं है. It is basically no definite formula for parenting either, but there is a recipe. थोड़ा नमकीन भी चाहिए, थोड़ा तीखा भी चाहिए, है ना. हमारी जो थाली आती है उसमें थोड़ा मीठा भी होता है, थोड़ा मतलब अलग अलग स्वाद होते हैं, और उसी से बच्चा सीखता है. इट्स अ रेसिपी फॉर पेरेंटिंग. व्हाट वर्क्स बेस्ट फॉर यू is the best thing to do, but what works for you as a group of women, because in a city like Mumbai they may not have chachi masi around, but all of them have the same problem. So why don't we connect, and why don't we take care of the children together on different days, so everybody is happy, the mothers are happy कि भाई एक दिन मैं हूँ बच्चों के साथ, वो भी अच्छा लगता है, and the other days I am working, मुझे कोई चिंता नहीं है. So these are the things that we can try.
This might be an antidote for one-child families.
Yes, absolutely, and for screen time, because we tell parents कि there is no antidote for screen by buying another object. अच्छा वो टीवी बहुत देख रहा है तो उसको I don't want to take any commercial names, but टैबलेट लाके दे दीजिए, या वो वीडियो गेम दे दीजिए. That's not an antidote. मतलब आप एक नशे को दूसरे नशे से सब्स्टिट्यूट करें. The only antidote for screen is human time, and it does not have to be the biological mother. ये another problem है. हर चीज करे तो माँ करे. यार इंडिया में माँ क्या नहीं करती है.
Doctor, can you say that again? I'm recording you. Can you say that again? That only antidote for screen time is?
The antidote for screen time is human time. It has to be a person, a human being who actually gives time to the child. It need not be a highly educated, intelligent human being. It can be the simplest human being possible, because the point is not intellectual information का exchange. The point is interaction. मैंने कुछ कहा, आपने कुछ कहा, उसको सुन के मैंने रिस्पॉन्ड करा, फिर आपने उसको सुन के रिस्पॉन्ड करा. हम गेट अलोंग भी करते हैं, हम थोड़ा आर्ग्यूमेंट भी करते हैं, फिर हम पैचअप भी करते हैं. ये जो इंटरेक्शन हो रहा है ना, ये हमारे ब्रेन में जिम चल रहा है. मतलब मैं कभी बाइसेप्स भी कर रहा हूँ, मैं शोल्डर्स भी कर रहा हूँ, मैं लेग्स भी कर रहा हूँ. होल बॉडी इज गेटिंग एक्सरसाइज. द ओनली वे टू एक्सरसाइज द एंटायर ब्रेन is with human engagement, and that is what is important. So it's not the biological mother only. अभी अब तुम बच्चे का टीवी भी छुड़ा दो, अब वो some fathers may be listening, they will tell अभी तुम ये भी करो. अरे वो क्या क्या करेगी भाई. इंडिया में नारी को अच्छी बेटी भी बनना है, अच्छी बीवी भी बनना है, अच्छी बहू भी बनना पड़ता है, अच्छी मदर भी बनना है, अच्छी जॉब में भी अच्छा काम करना है, घर पे भी हाउसवर्क भी करना है. It is crazy. And that is very unfair to expect the mother only to do all this. And that's why I always say you don't need a biological mother to raise a child beyond the first 6 months till the child is being breastfed. वो भी आज हम we have the milk banks, breast milk banks. The most important thing is आपके पास अगर समय है, आप बच्चे के साथ मुस्कुराइए. वो आपका बच्चा है, पड़ोसी का बच्चा है, आपके कजिन ब्रदर का बच्चा है, आपके कलीग का बच्चा है, doesn't matter. करना क्या है? Just go and smile with the child, laugh, let the child ask you questions. हम क्या करते हैं, अच्छा ABCD बताओ, अच्छा अंकल आए बेटा पोएम बोल के सुनाओ. अरे यार वो कोई नुमाइश की चीज है क्या? तो it is basically let the child completely ask questions, you answer. जब आप आंसर करने लगते हो ना बच्चे को, तब आपको सही समझ में आता है कि इसके दिमाग में चल क्या रहा है. हमें खुद वो अटैक करना है. ये फोर्ट है, मुझे अटैक करना है. और जितना मैं अटैक करता हूँ, स्पेशली एडोलसेंट्स, as we grow older, the child, अरे बच्चा मेरी कोई बात सुनता ही नहीं है, मैं जितना बोलता हूँ वो ज्यादा गुस्सा होता है. आजकल तो उल्टा जवाब भी देता है और बैड वर्ड्स भी देता है. An adolescent is like the fort of Troy. वो आपने ट्रॉय की स्टोरी सुनी होगी. The Spartans attacked Troy with the biggest army in the world, including Achilles, and they couldn't even एक ईंट नहीं तोड़ सके. What they did, they said let's the strategy. वो सब बोले हम चले जाते हैं, and they left a horse behind. वो हॉर्स के अंदर 50 उनके बेस्ट वॉरियर्स थे इंक्लूडिंग एकिलीस, और चले गए. अब ट्रॉय वालों ने देखा कि भाई स्पार्टन्स तो डर के ग्रीक्स भाग गए, तो ईगो बूस्ट हो गया. अरे बॉस वी आर इनविंसिबल, हमें कोई डिबेट नहीं कर सकता, सिखा नहीं सकता. सो दे केम आउट ऑफ देयर फोर्ट, ओपन देयर गेट्स फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम, एंड दे सॉ दैट हॉर्स आउटसाइड. अरे देखो जाते जाते इन्होंने हमारे लिए गिफ्ट भी छोड़ दिया. अब ढोल ताशे के साथ बजाते बजाते वो हॉर्स को खुद अंदर ले आए, फोर्ट के अंदर दरवाजे बंद कर लिए, और रात को दे वर एंजॉयिंग, पार्टी कर रहे थे, सेलिब्रेशन. तो उस Or say 50 soldiers came out and captured the whole city, killed all their soldiers. What 50,000 armed warriors could not do, 50 warriors did. What is the meaning for children or childhood? Your adolescent is like the fort of Troy. आप अटैक करोगे तो वो ज्यादा डिफेंड करेगा, और आप अच्छा भी बोल रहे हो तो भी अंदर आने नहीं देगा. You have to let your guard down. You have to give up your weapons. You have, okay भाई, तू यार तू बॉस है, तू बॉस है, चल अब तू बता तुझे क्या करना है. अब वो बोलने लगेगा नहीं, तब तक आप वापस बोलेंगे लेकिन ऐसे मत कर, लेकिन ये मत कर, अरे ये करेगा तो प्रॉब्लम होगा. मैं इतना अनुभवी हूँ ना, मैं जिंदगी में इतना सफर. अरे नोबडी वांट्स टू हियर योर सफर बाबा, नोबडी वांट्स योर ज्ञान. सबके पास ज्ञान है, आप सुनिए. वो एक गालिब का शेर है ना, ये कहाँ की दोस्ती है, ये कहाँ की दोस्ती है कि बने हैं दोस्त नासे. नासे मीन्स एडवाइजर्स. ये कहाँ की दोस्ती है कि बने हैं दोस्त नासे. कोई चारा साज होता, कोई गम गुसाज होता, कि कोई होता जो मेरे साथ बैठ के मेरा गम सुने. वही डॉक्टर चाहिए मुझे, और कोई काउंसलर डॉक्टर दलवाई नहीं चाहिए. तो दिस इज व्हाट वी नेवर डू. वी नेवर अलाउ द चाइल्ड टू टॉक. We are either questioning or we are asking, we are trying to find out something, we are being the CID also, we are being the teacher also. So the child says भैया इससे बात करना कोई possible ही नहीं. But if we let down our weapons, if we stop being super gyani, if we stop giving advice for everything, the child will learn to open his own gates and take us in. And then one small sentence we say will go deep down into the child's mind, because now he trusts you. He wants to hear you. He's opening his heart and mind and brain to you. Ears are always open, कोई बंद नहीं कर सकता. Some children do this also physically. Parents drive them to that. But when you place the child in trust, तो सही है. ये बात बिल्कुल सही है. अच्छा ऐसे क्या, बहुत अच्छा, फिर क्या किया उसने, अच्छा ये क्या, अच्छा फिर क्या लगा तुम्हें, अच्छा ऐसे लगा, अच्छा क्यों लगा भाई, अरे क्या मम्मी यार तुमको भी इतना नहीं समझता. नहीं समझता बेटे, बता कि मैं मम्मी को बता रहा हूँ, मैं डैडी को सिखा रहा हूँ. और फिर हम कंप्लेन क्या करते हैं कि देखो मेरा बच्चा ये नहीं कर रहा है, बेटा ये नहीं कर रहा, आपका बेटा ये करता है. हमको ये बताना चाहिए हमारे बच्चे ने ना ये समझा है हमको, हमें लग रहा था ऐसा है, लेकिन इसने एक जरा बात बताई तो हमने सोचा. आप ये अगर आपके बच्चे के सामने बोल दो ना, वो आपके पाँव छू लेगा. इतनी सी बात, फ्लैटरिंग नहीं करना है कि यार बच्चे ने, हमको एक बात थी लेकिन उसने बोला तो हमने सोचा कि बात तो थोड़ी सी ठीक है इसकी, बस इतना बच्चे के सामने बोल दीजिए एक बार. He will listen to you because वो सुन रहा है. इसका ये मतलब नहीं वो वही करेगा जो आप कह रहे हो. Listen and follow are two different things. He may not follow you, but he will listen to you. And if you really look at all the great philosophers and people who have said nobody needs to follow anybody. They need to think on their own. And that can happen when you stop attacking the child all the time. Gyan, ये मत करो, वो मत करो. The child will close the door and you will never be able to enter inside. You put down your guard, hide. जैसे the Spartans the hid somewhere, hide. Don't be very obtrusive in the child's life. Don't keep asking, अरे तुम्हारे दोस्तों ने क्या किया, तुम्हारे दोस्त ऐसा है, वो वैसा है. You're talking all the time, talking. Child doesn't like it, he switches off. So yeah, is very important to understand. Let the child feel respected when he feels respected when you also listen to him and follow some things that he says. So allow the child to choose the color of the shirt or the style of the shirt he wants, or the coat or suit he wants, or the food he wants to eat in a certain way. But then no substance abuse, no drinking, no smoking, no driving the car below the age that the government allows. Those things that the child will listen to you. So keep your veto power for very few selected dangerous things. Ma'am, you are, actually I'm just saying from the police. What will the police do? If parents are giving their child the car keys of a expensive car at 15 years, 16 years, and the child is going to a party and drinking, what will anybody do? It is not the fault of the child or the government or the law and order. It is the fact that parents have to understand that you are creating a problem for your child's life and for somebody else's life. So reserve your veto for these things. हाँ, बच्चे को सब्जेक्ट कौन सा लेना है स्कूल में, टू एन एक्सटेंट यू कैन अलाउ दैट. बच्चों को कपड़े कौन से पहनने हैं, भैया आज की फैशन ही पहनेगा, वो आपकी फैशन नहीं पहनेगा. सो डोंट से नो फॉर द सिंपल थिंग्स, कीप इट फॉर द मोर इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग्स. दैट्स व्हाट आई डू.
Fantastic.
सर बच्चे बड़े भी होते हैं, तो 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 साल के भी होते हैं. हमारे लिए तो बच्चे हैं. तो व्हेन आई सिट, जब 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 साल के बच्चे सामने होते हैं, तो मैं ऐसे पहले शुरुआत ही ऐसे करती हूँ. आप सबको सब कुछ आता है, वी आर हियर टू डिस्कस योर रियल लाइफ एक्सपीरियंसेस। सब कुछ आता है, चलो बताओ रियल लाइफ में क्या क्या होता है। सो दे वार्म अप सब, बट फिर जिगरा चाहिए मजबूत सुनने के लिए।
Correct.
हाँ, जिगरा चाहिए। तो मैंने एक दिन वो दे टॉक, सो देन दे टॉक अबाउट एवरीथिंग। Then you need jigra ki these children are 10-20 years ahead of your experiences what you had pehle, but you're not, our children are not living in the times we were living in. तो हमारे जमाने में ये होता था, बट वो जमाना ही नहीं है अब। तो सर दैट लॉजिक डजंट एग्जिस्ट ना, कि हमारे जमाने में ही होता था, वो जमाना नहीं है अब दूसरा जमाना है। सो सर ऐसे चलो दिल की बात करो, सब कुछ बात करते हैं, दिल खोल के बात करते हैं, देन दे लिसन। सर एक दो बच्चे साइड पर आ गए, मैम ये बात कर ले, तो मैंने कहा बेटा जाके मम्मी को बता दो, पापा को बता दो। तो बच्चा मुझे कहता है नहीं मैम, डैडी हार्ट पेशेंट है और मम्मी का बीपी हाई हो जाता है, वो तो बेहोश हो जाती है। सो सर क्या बोलो अब क्या बोलो। सो जी सर।
नहीं नहीं, बोलिए बोलिए।
सर सो our child needs to go through all the real life experiences.
But that's a good question, Jijit. Ask the doctor. वो क्या बोलो अगर वो कहे मम्मी को ये, डैडी को ये?
मैं ये कहूंगा कि everything doesn't revolve around the mother and father also. Now see, you are a stakeholder. I'm just using a simple term that the child now trusts your, आपको आके उसने बोल दिया, आप यही करने से ऑलरेडी बहुत कुछ कर दिया। At least you made the child feel that there is one person whom I can trust and open up. You don't know already आपने कितना अच्छा भला काम कर दिया उसके लिए, उस बच्चे के लिए। So the whole point is you may tell him कि बच्चा ये चीज ऐसे 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 आगे हो सकती है, you will need your parents support on this, it will be in your own interest if you are able to tell them. Then will come the retort, अरे वो हार्ट पेशेंट है, ये वो है, ठीक है। Then you say again कि can you say it in a little simpler way without all the details. So now you are engaging with that child. वो जो है ना, चारा साज होता गम गुस्सा, वो आप है, and that is very important. इसको कभी आप डाउन प्ले मत करिए। So the child also while talking to you is knowing that there are multiple ways my problem can be handled. You are giving him different options, and very often there need not be a solution also. Forget perfect solution. The fact that we can discuss alternatives is enough for a child. कि there are possibilities. Let the child then, and finally if he after all this says कि मैम मुझे नहीं बताना है पेरेंट्स को, अब आप बोलिए कोई बात नहीं, but you retain that child's trust unless it is a matter of criminal importance or somebody's life is in danger. Don't tell the parents. Don't tell the parents. Keep the child, but keep the child in your connection, जिसको हम डॉक्टर्स फॉलो अप कहते हैं। आप कहिए, वो आपके, एंड देन आस्क, अरे बेटा उसका क्या हुआ बाद में, उस बारे में क्या हुआ। ये जो आप बच्चे को एक सपोर्ट सिस्टम दे रहे हैं ना, it is very very important, not because you are the supporting structure that he'll get dependent on you. You are giving him alternatives. क्योंकि टीनेजर का जो माइंड होता है ना, वो इतना एनकम्पासिंग नहीं है, वो मल्टीपल चीजें, अलग एक ही चीज मल्टीपल तरह से नहीं सोच सकता है, वो मल्टीपल चीजें एक तरह से सोच रहा है। आपको बताना है कि इस बात के कई पहलू हैं, वो कई पहलू उसको नहीं आते उस एज में, बिकॉज द कॉर्टेक्स इज नाउ बीइंग डेवलप्ड एट दैट टाइम। यू हैव टू जस्ट गिव हिम द ऑप्शंस एंड देन स्टैंड बिहाइंड कि मैं हूं, तुम्हें क्या लगता है, ये करके देखेंगे, ये करेंगे, बस यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग हिम फॉर लाइफ टू डील विद हिमसेल्फ। टुमारो हम नहीं रहेंगे, लेकिन बच्चे को पता है कहीं ना कहीं कोई ना कोई मिलेगा जिससे मैं बात कर सकता हूँ, ये जरूरी है। तो आप ये मत अपसेट होइए कि he will not go and tell his parents. The fact that you are there to allow him this interaction is very important, and that's my message to all of us कि wherever we see a child, let us be prepared to listen to him or her. We may not be able to do anything for them substantially or tangibly, it doesn't matter. Listening to that child and saying कि मैंने सुना, उसको लगा कि कोई तो है मेरा सुनने वाला, is more than enough. और वो मतलब ईश्वर तो है, हम देखते नहीं है, लेकिन उस वक्त उस बच्चे के लिए आप ईश्वर है। Enough.
Doctor, how much you have a pediatrician association? Do you discuss parenting as as an association of
Yeah,
pediatricians?
absolutely, ma'am. And we'd like to invite you one day. We have an association called the Indian Academy of Pediatrics. And we are 45,000 pediatricians who are members of this association in India.
Wow.
And many of our people who have gone abroad, they still continue to be our members. And we have a proper democratic every year. There are elections and multiple positions and accountability, etc. One of the most important parts now in the last 10 years, earlier we were all about malaria and typhoid and TB. Now we are all talking about adolescents. We have a very vibrant chapter of 3,500 members who are a part of that subspecialty. I belong to another chapter along with adolescents on neurodevelopment and disorders. The another chapter on growth, development and behavior. And last 3 years we conducted the world's largest program on early childhood development. And this, as you know, ECD is a buzzword and the concept all across the world now, UNICEF, WHO. तो हमने 200 program workshops किए all across the country, 200 workshops. Nobody in the world has done that, and we trained about 10,000 pediatricians at the association's cost on early childhood development. So simple things like good health, then things like nutrition, then things like early learning opportunities, safety and security, madam. So we will definitely call you on that as well. And finally, responsive caregiving. What we talked about. So these ये 5 पहलू है early childhood development के, and we have trained 10,000 pediatricians on this so far. And these programs continue. We need stakeholders from the civil society like all of you also to be part of our association.
And the PTAs, parent teachers associations.
Absolutely, and the PTS. Correct. So we do programs for schools, for teachers. So one of our past presidents, Dr. Kinzardekar, ran a program called Sankalpa Sampurna Shikshan, where he talked about obesity and screen time, and we, IIP, the Indian Academy, worked on that. We conducted workshops in over 1,000 schools in the last 1 year. Even now, the current team is working on all these projects. But we need to work hand in hand with all of you. That is very clear.
You have a chapter in Abu Dhabi where Dr. Ajay Kumar can get associated with the book.
We have the IIP chapter of UAE. The UAE chapter of IIP. I will definitely be happy to connect you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
And lithology is very closely linked with your growth of the early child. Rahul?
Yes, madam, definitely, yes. So we are, one of our parties is super parent. So empowering the parents and of parents of the modern day world. And Ajay is also part of that. Thank you very much. So his book, Mindful Parenting, it's rich in content, and we are also developing many, many workshops based on that.
Maybe you can arrange something in Abu Dhabi.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we're happy.
Plenty learned from you, doctor.
Yes. So much.
What a session.
Yes.
What a session.
Thank you so much.
Sites. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you so much. And thanks, ma'am. And thanks, Rahul ji, Saina ma'am, Saina ji, and Dr. Ajay Kumar साहब. Thanks you so much. बहुत अच्छा लगा आप लोगों से मिलके, और I hope whatever I said was okay. But we should continue this discussion forever. And madam, we look forward to having your guidance on some of the aspects for IAP.
Well, you guided us. You've been a tremendous learning class for us, a master class of parenting.
Thank you so much. So kind of you to say that, ma'am. Thank you so much.
And full of hope. Full of hope.
Yes, absolutely. Only hope. It's all hope. Total positive.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Everything. Yeah. Carry on.
Children are able to pick up anything. It's unlimited potential. So at our center, at New Horizons Child Development Center, some of our taglines are every child can do better, and from label to enable. Don't label any child. Enable them. Think of, and my favorite line which we put at New Horizons is, disability is a condition which exists in the mind of the person who thinks somebody else is disabled. If you are not disabled, you should be able to solve his problem. If you are not able to solve his problem, then you are the one who's disabled. So you need to keep thinking how you can find a better solution for that person, rather than saying, "अरे भाई ये तो disabled है, इसको तो हम कुछ पैसे दे देंगे या कुछ sympathy देंगे." No, आप disabled नहीं है ना, तो आप आपका दिमाग लगाइए ना, उसकी life कैसे better हो सकती है. And that is how at New Horizons in the last 22-23 years, we have come up with our own way of working with children with autism, which is, like I said earlier, derived on our Indian socio-cultural system, where the family and the village and the neighborhood has so much impact in our life. And actually cutting that away has led to a big upsurge in these problems. So thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to present my thoughts. And all of you are
Thank
very, very kind. I must say that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very,
Thank
very
you so
well.
much,
Thank
sir.
you so
Very much, sir. Thank you. Thank
giving
you
us
so
so
much.
much.
Very, very
Giving
great.
us so much. Plenty given us. Thank you.
Ji, sir.
Thank you.
We thank
Thank you.
audience. Thank you, sir. Ajay, sir. Rahul ji, thank you. Gratitude, ma'am. Jai
Thank you.
Hari.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.